It's time to go on the record with WRAL News.
Thanks so much for joining us for On the Record. I'm Lena Tillett. Many of you know I have a 2.5-year-old son at home, and we have entered a really fun new phase of language development. He's learning and saying new words every single day. And one of the things he's saying a lot right now is, "What's that, Mama? What's that, Mama?" And he's, of course, expecting me to tell him what something is and to give him the definition of that thing. And I'm finding that this is really helping me learn to explain what things are in the simplest terms so that a 2-year-old can get it. This week, I interviewed Governor Josh Stein about the cannabis industry in North Carolina, an absolutely booming business becoming so complex people don't even have shared language about what it is and what products are. Our interview did break some news this week. First off, Governor Stein now supports legalizing THC intoxicating products for adults. You're probably wondering, what's that? Marijuana, for one, but a whole lot more. We also broke that the governor is trying to bring some order to this industry that he and many others are describing as the Wild West by forming a state advisory council. It'll be made up of all kinds of stakeholders, and the governor told me it will include people who don't agree with him. Tonight, we wanted to share that conversation in full, and it's one where I left learning some new vocabulary. Let's begin with what it is exactly that you're announcing. And I think we have to start with the central question that would probably be on the minds of most people, which is, do you support the legalization of recreational marijuana use for adults?
The reason, first of all, what I'm announcing is an advisory council on cannabis policy. And I'm using the word cannabis very intentionally and not marijuana because the traditional terms of marijuana and hemp have really lost their meaning. And in North Carolina, everywhere, if you go to a vape shop on Hillsborough Street, on Peace Street, 3 doors down from Broughton High School, you can get a hemp product, a cannabis product with intoxicating THC. There is no age restriction on who can buy those products. What I want to do is make sure that we have a smart, sound policy response to what's going on in the real world. We've got kids able to buy intoxicating cannabis, THC. We've got adults buying it with having no idea what's in that product. There are no labeling requirements. We have no idea what the concentration of THC is. So to answer your question fundamentally is, I believe adults should be able to choose what they want to do, but they need to have information, they need to be protected, and the public needs to be protected. The public gets protected in a number of ways. It starts with keeping kids. Kids need to be out of these shops. If you are not 21 years old, you should not be buying intoxicating THC. That is my firm belief, and that is not the law today in North Carolina. But we also have to make sure that the public is protected, that if people are out there driving and they're high, law enforcement needs to have the test to know whether this person has committed a crime. Right now, with alcohol, it's pretty easy to determine if somebody has alcohol in their system when they're driving badly. With marijuana, it's very difficult. So we need to invest in the equipment for law enforcement to be able to ensure that the public is safe, because today, they're out there high with products that they bought lawfully at a store, and we have no way of enforcing the law against them.
Okay, so you said a whole lot there. I want to make sure that I'm splitting this up in parts because it's really important. You talk about, you called it the Wild, Wild West. So many other people also think that right now it's so unregulated, it's a chaotic market, but I want to take it piece by piece. So do you support, again, the legalizing recreational marijuana use for adults? And is there a certain age where you think that that should happen? Yeah,
so I'm just going to set marijuana aside, and I'm not trying to be oppositional because marijuana and hemp have no meaning in today's world. It's all cannabis. Cannabis is the plant that has both of these traditional products. I believe that adults should be able to use cannabis with intoxicating THC if they want. So yes, I do support that. But what I really support is making sure that kids cannot buy it. And by law, today in North Carolina, they can. That is absolutely unacceptable to me. we have to do a better job protecting our kids, but we also have to do a job protecting adults who are purchasing this, because we have no idea. There's no independent lab requirement. There's no labeling requirement. There's no requirement that they say what concentration of THC there is. That's the critical amount. How much THC is in these products? No one knows.
Explain the landscape now. I think a lot of people just don't even understand the difference between cannabis. You have hemp-derived THC. You have obviously THC that's in marijuana, which is illegal in North Carolina. So what's your understanding of how the system is working right now and what's legal for both children, because anyone can get hemp-derived THC products, and adults?
Yeah. So historically, you have cannabis, and the difference between hemp and marijuana was what was the concentration of THC in the plant. If it was above 0.3%, it could get you high. That was marijuana. That's illegal. If it was less than that, and I think it was 2018, the U.S. Congress said hemp is legal as long as it's in a lower concentration. But what the industry did is they took that 0.3% concentration and took it out of the plant and put it in the product. So now you have a product with a whole bunch of other stuff in it that adds the weight. And if you have 0.3 of that, the amount of THC in the product will get you high. And that's what's for sale on street corners all across North Carolina. So it's no longer relevant. Do you call this marijuana? Do you call it hemp? Will it get you high? Is it an intoxicating amount of THC? And what I want to do is bring order to this market, because, like you said, it is the Wild West out there. The idea that we have a system where this product, which is a drug that can get you high, is for sale out there without any restrictions on how it's sold, to me is insane. With alcohol, I believe adults should be able to drink alcohol if they choose. But we have a system that ensures that we're protecting kids. You cannot be under 21. You have to be 21 or older to buy alcohol. You have to go to a special store. You have exactly knowledge about how much proof, what is the alcohol proof of this product? Is there any other ingredient in this product? All of this is known. We need to have something similar that protects the public when it comes to THC. And that's what I want to bring order to the Wild West that is North Carolina. I mean, it's really ironic that in some ways, the most liberal pro-marijuana adult use state in the country is North Carolina. It's not Colorado. It's not Massachusetts. It's not these states that legalized it and then created a regulatory structure to sell it. It's North Carolina, where we have no rules whatsoever. That is unacceptable.
Isn't the legislature supposed to be the body that creates these rules around this?
Yeah, and they've been wrestling with it for a couple of years. You've had the House that's been trying to wrestle with the vape shops. You have the Senate that's been looking at the issue of medical marijuana, and they've been in conflict. And so part of what I want this advisory council to do is to get all of the stakeholders around the table together, Republican and Democratic legislators on the House side, Republican and Democratic legislators on the Senate side, public health folks, public safety folks. We want everybody to come together to say, what should it look like in North Carolina? I think that anybody who looks at what's happening in North Carolina who really understands it, and a lot of people, to your point earlier, they have no idea. Just go into a vape shop, ask the clerk, what product will get me the most high, and they will give you something. And it would get you high if you were to take it. So that's not acceptable. So if we don't accept the status quo, what do we want the reality to actually be? And that's what this advisory council, I hope, will help us to answer.
You know, we reported on a case in Granville County where 4 children bought 4 vaping products right next to their middle school. The products tested over the legal limit for THC. We went undercover last year, purchased what was being branded as legal products. So they're stating that they are legal products. 80% of them were over the limit for THC. I mean, is there anything that you can do within your power now as governor to regulate this?
The challenge is, what the industry will say is, it was higher concentration THC that will get you high, but it wasn't above the level when you take the whole weight of the product. A brownie is a very heavy thing, heavier than a leaf. So if you have 0.3% or more in a leaf, it's pretty easy to determine, yeah, that's above the legal limit. But if you have 0.3 THC in a heavy product, they will say it's a legal product because it falls within the federal law. What I want to do is to set aside the limits, this 0.3 and sort of this myth of what's hemp and what's marijuana, and just realize that these intoxicating THC products are there and come up with a system that has structure, that has protections, that keeps kids out of the store, that lets adults know exactly what it is they're purchasing, and that generates revenue so we can deal with the public health and public safety consequences. You know, if we're going to start enforcing our driving while intoxicated or while high laws effectively, we need to give the state crime lab a lot more money. And we need to give law enforcement who are out on the roads enforcing the laws more resources. That takes revenue, and that's what some of this revenue can go towards.
So what about all those people, hundreds of thousands of people, in fact, who have low-level marijuana possession convictions? The governor shares why he thinks those records should now be expunged when we come back. Welcome back. Tonight, we're sharing our interview with Governor Stein this week, where we went deep into what he's calling the Wild West of our state's largely unregulated cannabis industry. So some of you may be thinking, well, how is it going in other states? I asked the governor if any of those places can serve as a model for us.
I've been to a few states. I haven't purchased it anywhere. I'm aware of how different states have wrestled with it. I've heard from regulators that the states that start with a medical marijuana system and then come later with an adult recreational use system end up having pretty irrational systems, because the regulatory regime for one is very different than the regulatory regime for the other. And it ends up people making weird decisions. In Maine, what I have been told is that people end up buying their marijuana for recreational use from the medical system, because there's no sales tax on the medical system. And all they do is get an easy to fill prescription from somebody who then they go and get it for cheaper. I think we can have one system, a cannabis control system, where we know what's in the product so that people know what they can take and what they can tolerate and what they can't. I think we need to get rid of these candy wrappings. The idea that we would try to present and create a product that is intended to attract kids to consume when it is harmful to them is ridiculous, and it's absolutely unacceptable. So I believe in plain packaging, clearly delineated contents, concentrations. Let's have a system actually not very dissimilar from the ABC system. We have controlled sales and people know what they're buying.
So an ABC system where people would be able to do what?
Go buy a product with THC in it. If you're an adult, if you're a kid, wait till you're 21.
What do you say to parents who worry about any effort to legalize these products would lead to more children getting their hands on it?
Two things. One is I share that concern. Anytime you come up with a system of control, then it then gives a signal that this is a legal product. So there may be some people using it who otherwise wouldn't because of the social shame of breaking the law. But I'm really concerned about the status quo. You know, when we outlawed alcohol consumption didn't go away. It just started existing in an illegal framework. I want to make sure that we bring this into a regulated system where people know what it is they're buying.
Let's talk about how realistic it would be for the General Assembly to adopt any recommendations that come out of this advisory council, because you served on Governor Cooper's criminal justice task force. I interviewed you back in 2020.
Yep.
And I remember then you were talking about the complexity of legalizing marijuana use, recreational marijuana use, possessing small amounts. But you all did recommend decriminalizing possessing small amounts of marijuana. How did you all come to that, and where did that effort go?
Yeah, basically it was a realization that there are a ton of adults who use marijuana. And my view is, if you are an adult and that's the choice you want to make, you should be able to make that choice legally. There are over 300,000 North Carolinians who who have a criminal record for simple marijuana crimes, possession or drug paraphernalia. That is an anchor that they are carrying on their shoulder for the rest of their lives, because when you go to apply for a job, you have to declare your criminal record. When you go look for an apartment, they will ask for your criminal record. It ends up being a real barrier for people's successful participation in life, and I don't think that's right. I don't think because you as an adult want to smoke marijuana, which again, I'm now falling victim to my own rule, which is to say don't call it marijuana anymore, but you as an adult want to take intoxicating cannabis, THC, that you should have a criminal sanction. And so, in my view, we should be decriminalizing it. Well, I want to go to the next level where if you use it, it's not a crime at all. But for people who have this criminal record, we should have a process to expunge those criminal records so that you're not hampered for what is a product that today is available down the street.
This is a change, though, from in 2020, because I asked you directly in 2020 if you agreed with legalization, and you said it was too complex, but you did believe that decriminalization would be the fairest approach. How did you change?
If you go on any street, around any high school, or any college campus, these vape shops are proliferating like mushrooms. They are everywhere. So the proliferation is so much greater today than it was 5 years ago. We live in a changed environment. And so I'm reacting to reality. The reality is intoxicating THC is widely, almost universally available in North Carolina, and there are no protections for our children, and there are honestly no protections for our adult users, because they don't know what's in these products. They come from who knows where. And what I want is for any product that is sold in this state, for the adult who purchase it to know what's the concentration, what are the contents, what am I taking?
Okay, so let's talk about, again, that task force recommendation from 2020. You presented that to the, I'm sure, the legislature.
We did.
Where did it go?
They didn't take it up. They didn't.
Why would this effort be different?
Because the world is different today in 2025 than it was 5 years ago. Because these vape shops are everywhere. Because there are story after story of teenagers, just like you described, buying these products, consuming these products, and having terrible physical and psychological responses. A young man who went to college with my sons had a psychotic episode based on what he had consumed from these stores, because you don't know what's in them. And I don't want to live in that world.
What are parents telling you about their concerns with, you said, a vape store popping up on every corner?
They don't like it. They don't like the fact that a 15-year-old can go in there and legally buy these products today. And they want some order brought to the chaotic reality in which we live.
Welcome back. Medical marijuana got closer to becoming legal in North Carolina than it ever has last year, passing in the state Senate, but it ultimately failed in the state House. Many people were so devastated about that. So what can the governor's new advisory council realistically do to convince lawmakers on an issue that draws so much passion on both sides? We pick back up there.
I don't think a lot of people really appreciate what's going on. And that's why I'm saying go to these stores and see what's there, and your jaw will hit the table. So I think part of it is making sure that the legislature does know what's in fact happening. But that's why I'm bringing in folks from both parties, both chambers, so we can have a shared understanding of what is happening, a shared appreciation for how other states are dealing with it, and then a shared strategy of what North Carolina should do. And that's what this advisory council is about, is how do we get from here to a better place?
You have the indigenous group from the Cherokees also included on this council. It is legal to sell marijuana on tribal lands. What are you hoping to learn from them about how that process is going?
Well, I just feel like we have a lot to learn because they've done it. So they can tell us what worked for them, what didn't work for them, what they wish they had done differently. That's part of why we asked them to participate. Are
they eager to participate? Do they want to share how that process is going?
I'm certain they do, yes.
Back to the Republican support, I know Senator Rabin and Representative Bell are also going to be on the council.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
They have been disappointed in the past, though, with legislation that has failed. What's your conversation with them been like about what you're trying to do here?
I've articulated my concern about what's happening. It's happening today in North Carolina. Let's have some system that makes sense. Now, they may have different approaches, but if we hear the same information and the same reports on what other states are doing, we may all come to the same conclusion. It may be that we're at a loggerheads and we can't break the logjam, but that's not where I hope. I hope that we all decide to come up with the same approach and that we can create some momentum and energy behind that.
Because there is the potential that maybe Senator Rabin thinks legalizing THC use for adults that don't need it for medical reasons, that's too far. How are you, are you just going to look at a range of, recommendations? How will that process work? And what's the timeline are you thinking on that?
Yeah, well, Senator Rabin will decide for himself after taking in all this information what he thinks is the right course. I have my own views. I'm sure pretty much every person has their own views on these matters. I hope the one thing that we can all agree with is that the status quo is unacceptable. And if you agree with me that it is wrong for kids to be able to go buy intoxicating THC in child attractive candy packaging, then we've got to do something.
You mentioned expunging the records of people who had small possession of marijuana. Can you do that now? Do you have that within your power to do now?
We actually are looking into this question about what is my authority for expunging under my pardon and commutation authority, and so that's something we are looking at.
You recommended this 5 years ago for then Governor Cooper. Is this a priority for you? Because a lot of people would be thinking if there's going to be any legalization effort, I still have this on my record. I've been convicted. I can't get a job. It's difficult for me to get a home. So this could change their lives if you're able to do that. Is this a priority for you to commute those sentences?
If we can get the legislature to deal with and address and authorize adult use of these intoxicating THC products, then it would absolutely be a priority for me.
That would have to happen first.
Maybe. We just have to look into all these questions. That's why I'm looking for advice. We intentionally named this an advisory council. I do not have all of the answers. I have some philosophical views on matters, but there are real complicated practical implications of every decision you make. And so what I want to do is have a lot of really smart people with a very diverse array of perspectives to help inform what makes the most sense for North Carolina.
We're grateful to the governor for his time. If you'd like to find that interview, it's on WRAL.com. We also talked to a Republican representative, John Bell, who is going to serve on the advisory council. You can find that interview on our website as well. Before we let you go, a huge thank you and a farewell to our wonderful producer, Noah Klein. He's been my partner On the Record the past couple of years. I hope we can show him back there in the control room. I'm sure they're working on it. But we wish him well as he moves on in his career. Noah is a fantastic human being in addition to being a great producer. So best of luck to you, Noah. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.